and to take care of ourselves.
Yep.
Our parents taught us that anything you want in life, try to get as good an education as you can, because once you get it in your mind, nobody can take that from you.
That's right.
And whatever you want, if you can see it, you can have it.
Yep.
And they taught us, even when we were growing up, we had to raise an animal or something, and then Daddy would sell it and give us the money. But every time he gave me something to raise, I made it my pet, and he would have to wait till I went to school to sell it, and then I would cry for 2 weeks, and he would say, next year you ain't getting nothing. The next year I cried and promised him I wasn't going to cry if he gave me something.
Yeah.
He gave it to me, I made a pet out of it, and then when it was time to sell it, he had to wait till I went to school. I cried again. So every year my daddy was threatening not to give me anything, because I used to cry because Daddy would let me have my way. I was the youngest, and he used to give me a little leeway.
Yeah.
Because my brothers, they used to like to play cards at night, because we had, my grandchildren would say, Grandma, what did you do? We had no TV and all this other stuff that they have, right? I said, we used to have a lot of fun. I said, but my brothers, they used to like to play cards. So they would say to me, you're not going to play. Because if I had 2 cents and I said that and I lost my 2 cents, I would go and cry, and Daddy would make them give it back, right? So when they told me that, I would go, my daddy and mama be in bed. So I go in there and I'm crying, and Daddy said, what's the matter? I said, Daddy, they won't let me play cards. My brother get up, my daddy would get out of the bed, he would go in there and he would say, put the cards away. So they would say, Daddy, we don't want her to play because all she gonna do is cry as soon as she lose her little money. Because I think they used to play for 2 cents or whatever. It wasn't a whole lot because nobody had a whole lot of money. But they said, all she gonna do is, that's why she can't play. Daddy said, put the cards away. All right, they said, okay, she can play. So I sit down with my little money, and Daddy will go back into his room. Now, I think they cheated me, because soon as I sit down, before I can get a hand, I done lost. So I go back in my daddy's room. Daddy wouldn't even be done got back in the bed. He was sitting there on the side of the bed because he knew. And Daddy would get up and he'd go back in there and he'd say, give her back her money. That's why we don't want her to play. Daddy would say, give her back her money. So I get my little 2 cents and I would sit on the side on the couch. That's why I said, you can't hurt my feeling by teasing me. And I would sit there and they say, look at her sitting there. I don't care what Daddy said tomorrow or whatever they're going to play. She ain't playing no more. And they all agreed, no, she ain't playing no more. I didn't care what they said. I had my little 2 cents.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Next time they played cards, it was just like history repeated itself.
Same
right.
thing.
My daddy would always give me that look. Yeah. So every man, even my husband, had a hard time with me because I measured everybody up against my daddy. And even my husband, nobody ever measured up to my daddy. And he was the kind of man that I tell everybody that all daughters need strong fathers. Because the father is the one that sets the standards
Absolutely.
for their life. And when I got married, one time, my husband was so jealous. Lord have mercy. We was at a party, and he got upset because I'd had Robert. Robert was 3 years old when I married your Uncle Freddie. So Robert's father came to the party. Well, Freddie was a dark man, too. He got blacker. So he wanted to talk to me. So he asked me to come outside. He wanted to talk to me. Before I can get out there, Daddy and Boo, they done almost knocked me down getting outside in front of me. So we get out there, and they come out and they standing there. So Freddie says, would y'all mind? I just want to talk to my wife. So Daddy said, well, start talking. My daddy, and he was drinking back there too. He couldn't talk that good nowhere. That's why I can't say a lot of words. He said, am I stopping you from talking? Go ahead, talk. So he said, well, would y'all mind, going back inside? They said, I ain't showing nowhere. He said, that's my baby. I'll kill you and go to hell because that's my baby. Ain't nobody gonna mess with my baby. So Boo is trying to convince Daddy to go back and say, Daddy, I got this. Not right now. So Boo trying to convince that, Daddy, I got it. You go, I ain't showing nowhere. I shot it too. They wouldn't leave, so Freddie left and grabbed the cab and went home. When I got home, he said to me, not only are you crazy, your whole family. I said, I bet you one thing, you wasn't crazy enough to do no talking.
Yeah, better quiet
Yes, yes.
I like it there.
Yes.
Oh.
But like I said, my husband was very jealous, and I didn't find out until later that he was very insecure. I was never insecure because I used to think, what in the world? I ain't that pretty, so why is he so jealous? But when I look back now, my grandchildren, they say, Grandma, you was a fox. I said, he better be glad I didn't know it. Because I would have given him something to be jealous about, although I didn't have to because everybody, but I was outgoing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I tried not to be outgoing. I tried to, like, be more passive. It didn't work. My spirit wouldn't allow it.
Hey, man, that's it. That's not in us.
It wasn't in me. I broke up and went back to my husband 3 times. And the last time we became best of friends. We were best of friends because the last time I went back to him, I was courting him and I was having so much fun. But Aunt Pat came to New York. Hey, you gonna coach your husband? Why don't you two go back? I tell her all the time, I said, you causing me going back. Me and Freddie were doing fine courting it with her last.
Yeah.
But we became best of friends. And before he passed, he said to me, do I have anything? He said to me, he said, Annie, all I ever wanted was a good woman. And he said, I had you and didn't have sense enough to me.
He realized it too late.
It was too late. And he said it. And he said, now I'm laying here and I'm dying. I said, Freddie, please don't say that. And he left. He did. Anthony said, he told him too, he told him the regrets that he had with our marriage. And he told Anthony, he said, take care of your mama. And Anthony goes overboard. He's worse than his mom. Jesus.
You gotta listen to his daddy though.
Yeah.
he listened too well.
Yesterday at the reunion, did you see Mom, don't do that. Mom, don't fall. Mom, I said, if you don't leave me alone.
Aunt Ann, thank you so much for this. We're going to do it so many times.
I'm going to get you some more history.
Absolutely. I'm going to get some more too. I'm going to have them copies and everything.
Good.
Thank you
because
so much.
I have the original copy of Grandma Angie, and I have the original picture of Grandpa Charlie because those were my mother's pictures.
Yep.
She got it from her cousin Margaret. That was great Uncle John's daughter, right? And before she died, I used to go to see her because my mother was dead then. And I told her I had those pictures. She said, I'm so glad you got them. I told her, I said, when I lost Mama, I couldn't even go in my mom's house. I didn't get anything of my mother's because I just couldn't touch anything of hers.
Yeah.
But then after I lost her, and Pops, I loved him so much. He was so good to my mother. I would go home all the time, and I went back home that Christmas just because I knew he was down there by himself.
Yeah.
And Mama was his whole life because he was a quiet man. So he lasted 5 years, and we took care of him. Robert would take him to Richmond for his appointments and different things. And when I used to go home, I would go with him up to Richmond. So when he passed, I told my sisters and brothers, I said, the only thing I want is those 2 pictures. My mother had them in her bedroom, and I got those 2 pictures. That's how I ended up with the original pictures. And I told her cousin, because Mama had died then too, and I told her first cousin, I said, I have those pictures. Because Mama told the story, she told it too, that Mama said to her, you have something that I want. And she said, her cousin Margaret said, the pictures of your mother and father. And she gave them to Mama. So when I told her I had them, she said, I'm so glad you have them.
Absolutely.
I won't let nobody take them off that wall. I let anybody come, they can take pictures of it.
Yeah, don't touch it.
And if I had bought that book that Helen made, there was nobody gonna touch that either. They could look and take pictures. And I have the obituary, the article that they wrote up about my grandmother, great-grandmother Angie. It was Shepherd's Paper or something. I have that article about her.
I'm gonna try to find that too.
I have it.
Okay.
I have the original, but I have that in a bag, and I was gonna bring it because I have it in a plastic thing, in a notebook, and it tells the story about her death and her children and her sisters and brothers.
Thank you so much, honey. We love you so much. Mwah.
Oh yeah, I got a lot more.
Absolutely.
I can't remember everything that happened years ago. I can't remember what happened yesterday.
Years ago, you got us. Thank you so much, honey.
My
That was
baby
wonderful.
is wide awake. Look.